Praise be to Jesus and Mary. You're listening to Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World, a podcast hosted by Holly and Mandy. Let's begin our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy, and we're happy to be back for another episode this week. We will begin by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So,
we missed a week.
We missed a week.
Yeah.
I was very busy helping out with the girls' camp here in London, Ontario, Canada.
Right,
For those
right.
that don't know,
And I was working too.
yeah, my mom was working too.
I was making dinner, so
She was the
and it was very all-consuming, the girls' camp.
yes, but you know
more
what?
so than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but it did bring me back
To
my girls' camp days
Yes.
when I was a camp counselor at the ripe young age of 15?
Yeah.
15, 14. I was young when we were camp counselors, but
and before that, you went as a
and I went as a kid, yeah,
Right, yeah.
too. But it was, you know what? I will say it was so good to see camp here again. It's been a long time since we've had a
Long
camp
time.
up here in Canada, and that's mostly just because
We haven't
there was
had
a
any-
long period where we didn't have any kids to go to camp.
Yeah, right.
There was
Once you guys grew up,
There was
no kids to take your place.
Yeah. And so that's what we call the dry spell.
Yeah.
There was a massive dry spell
For
here
at
in
least
Canada.
10 years.
Yeah.
At least 10, 15 years. I don't know.
But now we have this nice flourishing parish, and we have all these young kids and these young girls, and they got to experience their first camp. And a lot of the girls, which I am related to, nieces and daughter and cousins' children, and it was so good seeing them with the nuns. We had 5 nuns come up. Bishop Loud sent us 5 nuns. Well, 2 are here. 2 are our nuns.
2 are ours.
But we had 3 extra nuns, and it was so awesome, for lack of a better word, being out with these nuns. And
I was thinking, last week we titled the podcast, Be a Hero, Not a Zero.
yeah,
But I mean, I wasn't out in public with the nuns because I just came and showed up with supper.
yeah,
But you were out, right?
it was incredible.
And it was incredible. And I mean, I thought, these guys are really the real heroes.
It was like being out with superheroes.
Yeah.
Like people, and I don't know, maybe for those that are listening, maybe you don't get this in the States. I don't know, because I know there are a lot of nuns, not a lot, but there's nuns, and I think they're more used to seeing nuns in the States, maybe.
I don't know.
But here in Canada, you don't see nuns.
No.
Ever.
Ever.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
I joke with sister, I say, you're the 2 nuns of Canada. Like, there are no nuns out walking around. So when we went on these little day trips and these excursions with the girls, and you literally see people, like, stopping and looking and going, like, what did I just see? Is that actually a nun? Like, you see it. It's all over their face. And actually, it was funny because my sister and I were both driving. We were helping drive all these girls around. And my sister said to me, we were out in what's called Port Stanley, so it's like a very touristy place.
It's
here.
also a fishing village.
A fishing village.
Yeah.
And my sister's like, imagine if, like, sister just caused a car accident because all these people are stopping. Because we were crossing the road, right? And it was like these 5 nuns crossing the road, and their veils are blowing in the wind.
Yeah. Like like a TV show.
Like a TV show. And so many people stopped us everywhere we went.
Yeah.
Everywhere we went, people stopped us and wanted to talk to the nuns. And there was one particular lady, when we were eating lunch, we were having a little picnic lunch, and I caught the tail end of the conversation. I came up when they were kind of just wrapping up their conversation, but she was there talking to 3 of the nuns, and she was crying, and I couldn't hear exactly what she was saying, but along the lines of, like, bringing her back to her childhood.
Yeah.
So obviously she had been around nuns in her childhood, and she just said, I'm just crying because I'm just so happy to see nuns. Yeah. And she looked at, some of the girls were there, some of the campers were there, and she reached out and she said to the girls, she said, you girls are blessed. You're in very good hands.
Yeah.
said to the girls, you know, like, and it was just like seeing people stop and want to talk to them and want to be near
And even
them.
like you told me that you went on the train ride.
Oh yeah, and so we went on this train ride around this Port Stanley, this fishing village. There's a scenic train ride, and I guess the two sisters that we have here, Sister Jacinta and Sister Bernadette, they went ahead of time the week before to ride the train just to make sure it was okay and
like
suitable.
we weren't going to see anything.
Yeah.
You
So,
know.
anyways, so they had already ridden the train. So when we got there to the depot, the conductor came out and he's all dressed up as a conductor, and he was like, "Oh, sisters, you're here." And he was so excited to see them.
Yeah.
And then he told Sister, he goes, "I got to tell you, Sister," he said, "I volunteered specially to work this day." Because they're all volunteers,
Yeah,
they don't get paid.
It's
He's
an
like,
old railroad
it's
system.
an old railroad system. And he said this, she goes, "I volunteered and I made sure that I was volunteering and on the schedule today because I just wanted to see you sisters one more time."
Yeah.
And it was just incredible. And, you know, people coming up to them and saying, "It's so good to see sisters in habit. You don't see that anymore."
Yeah.
You know?
I did make the comment, though, that I said, because I wasn't around for any of this, but I said to you, I said, were all these people old?
Yes, they were all old.
And you
Every
said, yeah.
single one of them.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, old people, they can remember back at a time when there was sisters.
Walking around,
or you would see sisters, or, you know.
Yeah.
Young people, I'm pretty sure it's just like.
Well, there was one young person, and there was a lady that was also helping with us at the camp.
Yeah.
Not a nun, a lady. A very nice lady, and from Michigan. And she said somebody stopped her and said, "Are those real nuns? Like, are they actually for real?" And like thinking they were just people walking around in costume or something, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a younger person. So they were like, is it like, the young people, I think, almost don't believe what they're seeing.
Right.
Like, they're just like, is that legit? Like, is that real? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Because, they've never seen it before.
They've never seen it.
I mean, older people may have lived at a time when, you know, Catholic churches and Catholic hospitals had nuns in them. Right? And so there would have been, you know, not tons. I mean, I had never met or seen a nun until I became a traditionalist.
Right.
And I went to a Catholic school system.
Right.
So, and I was born in 1962. So the first nun I ever met was Sister Mary Bernadette from CMRI.
Yeah.
You know? So there you go. So it's not very common.
No, it's not. And, you know, the thing is like, when you're out with them, though, and I think as Catholics, like, we know the nuns. We're used to the nuns. We're around them all the time.
Right.
You know, I see the nuns that are here every day, practically. Well, the school's in every day. But to see the people and to see, and I was saying to my sister, I said, I could watch the people watching the nuns.
Yeah.
All day. Like, I could watch them, you know, like, just seeing, like, that's the effect that the nuns and the sisters have on people.
Yeah. Well, I think, to me, they can't fathom that people would give up their whole entire life.
Yeah.
Dress that way. Like, and the other thing, too, you got to remember, we were in the middle of a heat wave.
Yeah.
It was
hot. Yeah.
Dang hot.
And here are these nuns walking around.
And here, you know, they're geared out from head to toe, you know, and you're just, it is unfathomable to people.
Yeah.
You know, like it reminded me of a quote from a book I read about St. Aloysius. And it was like, lordly at birth, given the whole kingdom, and renounces it all, all to the world. I mean, this book is old, and so is St. Who did I say, Aloysius? Yeah, you know, and they renounce it all. They renounce the world for God. And people don't get that.
No.
Like, they didn't get it back then. This was in this old book.
Yeah.
Right? And they really don't get it now.
Yeah.
Like, you just are going to wear that. And, you know, like, you know, like, it's just like, wow, that's some serious commitment.
Yeah. Well, it was incredible, especially, like I said, especially here in Canada, because We just don't get that here. And,
No,
you know.
No, it was great, and it was really good to have. It was really good to see something that we had started so many years ago
Come back to life.
come back to life.
It was
So,
such a good camp. It was so good. And having 5 nuns there just like, just put it right over the edge. Because when we were doing it, I think we only ever got 2.
right.
Like it was smaller camp, and Bishop was kind enough to always make sure we had 2 nuns to come.
Right.
But to see the 5 of them there working and helping the girls, and it was so cute. We had a little dinner, like a fancy dinner for the girls at the last night. And so I got back to the convent/school to go and pick them up to bring them back to the church, because that's where the fancy dinner was. And the sisters had braided all their hair or done like some kind of a fancy do.
They had all fancy updos.
A fancy all updos and everything. And I remember seeing my daughter, hers was very pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, who did your hair? And she said, Sister Bernadette. I said, oh, what's it like to have a nun do your hair? Amazing. You know, like, can you imagine, like, you're there with the nuns, and they just have this way of just being like the stars and the moons to these girls, you know?
Yeah, heroes.
The real heroes. Because and they really are, because they've said no to the world, and they've given everything to become a bride of Christ, you know.
And also, and also that involves the service to other people.
Right. And you know that. You feel it. You sense it.
Yeah.
You know. So it was, I'm really glad we finally got that here for these girls.
Yes.
Because...
Well, you knew when you
I knew how great it was growing up.
Yeah.
Both being a little camper and then being a counselor. You know?
And even, we had Father and I a visit, and he put a little fire under my son. Mm-hmm. You know, he said, I expected you to be serving. You know? And so, but anyway, so we went every day, to daily mass, and he came and he served every day for the girls' camp.
My brother, that took him back. I'm
Yes,
sure.
and he really wanted to do that too. Like, he wanted to be there and to do that. And I thought, he's remembering how he used to do this.
Yeah.
All his sisters would go to girls' camp, and they'd be there trudging out to. We had a little frontier village with Father, and the little chapel would be set up there at the little camp, and he'd come every day
be the altar boy.
Be the altar boy.
Yeah.
I think he took him back too.
Yeah.
Because he really wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it was good. It was a great week. So just know that we missed last week, but it was for something very good.
Yeah, it was.
Not
just, frivolous.
Holly was in the Bahamas or something. I'm just teasing. I don't ever go to the Bahamas. Never been. That was a joke. Okay, I was at girls' camp.
Yeah. So we're gonna. Before we get to our book,
do you have something else?
Yeah, I want to talk about. I was telling you about this YouTube channel I watch.
Oh, right.
And it's a vintage YouTube channel. It's this woman who dresses in vintage clothes and all sorts of vintage clothes. She doesn't pick one, mostly the 50s, but she doesn't. But what she does that is so interesting to me, because I've watched a few of these. Few of her videos, is she goes back and she does these videos. What's it like to be a housewife in the 50s? And what was surprising to me about this, so she goes, a day in the life of a 50s housewife, right? Mm-hmm. So and this is kind of common on YouTube. I've watched several of these. People are taking old books.
Right.
Particularly, like she had copies of Good Housekeeping.
Yeah.
Let's think about that. We used to have a magazine. Is that magazine still around, Good Housekeeping?
I don't know. Well, they have a site. Whether they have an actual digital or like an actual physical print magazine. Because I'm pretty sure it is.
Because I was thinking about how lost that is.
But I don't think it would be the same as the Good Housekeeping that was.
No. What she would do is she would get these magazines, and it would tell you how to keep your house good. Right? So she said your daily routine, your good housekeeping routine and what you need to do. And it was very, very explicit, like start at the top and dust all the way down.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you. I just looked it up.
What?
Good housekeeping is your destination for everything from recipes to product reviews to home decor inspiration.
Yeah, not so much about
Not so much about good housekeeping, if you ask me.
No, because I was
And then
thinking,
even it just says, it's a media brand that covers a wide range of topics from home decor, renovation, health, beauty, and food to entertainment.
yeah, entertainment, health,
Like
beauty,
the-
health and beauty, and yeah,
Like
no.
it's not even, I bet you it's not even the same magazine at all.
Right. So these magazines were to help women keep their house. You know, I mean,
Good.
yeah,
House
good housekeeping. So she does these videos where she goes, okay, I'm going to, you know, according to the good housekeeping standards,
Yeah.
do my housework. And so she does this whole video where she says, okay, it tells you when to wash the dishes. Now when to make the breakfast. Now go clean up the living room and then come back and do that. Like, it was very orderly and
Right.
very well thought out, and why you do that. Even to the point, now open the drapes and let in the, you know,
Yeah.
air and circulate the air. And like it was, and so here she is, she's running around in her little 50s outfit, trying to keep up with this Good Housekeeping magazine, you know, itinerary of how to keep your house. And I was thinking, you know, I think we have lost all this. Like, this is not
Yeah.
a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Like, people do not tell you how to keep your house, how to do the ironing, how to do all this stuff, right? And I mean, I remember, of course, again, born in 1962, I remember when I moved out of my house. This is funny. This is what an idiot I was, right? So I had an apartment and I had a roommate, and my roommate's mother come over, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. And she criticized us for not washing. It was an old house, and we had these giant baseboards.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "You haven't cleaned these baseboards. Clean these baseboards, right?" I was like, "Who cleans baseboards?"
Oh my goodness.
Like, I know, I was 18, right? And I was like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." That's what I thought in my head. I'm not even joking, right? So this is how far away we were removed, even at that. Like, what? I'm 18, so I had to be somewhere around road before I got married, you know. So, but anyway, and I thought, this is all lost. Like, people legitly don't know how to clean a house.
No.
I mean, I got married, and eventually, and I reflected on it for many years, how I thought that at 18 cleaning a baseboard was the dumbest thing I ever heard of. And then, you know, as I got older, I'm like, of course you got to clean the baseboards if you got giant baseboards, you know.
Well, even if
So
you got small ones.
so I just thought, it was very interesting to listen to this. And this woman who was doing these videos, once she started, like, her very first video where she goes to clean like a 50s housewife according to the Good Housekeeping manual,
Yeah.
you're watching her and her house is a wreck.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, and now we sweep under the couch, and then she's got like a mountain that comes out, right? And then she does another video where she reflects on how it has helped her so much by doing these videos. So now she goes into a room and she has tried to keep up with,
Like she has a routine.
and she tries to keep up with it. And now that, now it's not so much work.
Right.
She said, look at me cleaning this room compared to the very first time I tried to do this, right? And she has 5 children too. So she has a lot of babies and a lot of stuff going on. So her
Right.
house would need a lot of attention.
Yeah.
But anyway, maybe we'll find some Good Housekeeping magazines and give you the rundown on how exactly to clean your house. Or you can just go to these channels and find them.
Or that too. All right, so we're going to jump into our book here.
Yep, let's do that.
So the handbook, we're in the Handbook of Good Manners from the Mother House of the Sisters of Charity. And we're on a new subsection here called Manners with Externs.
Well, what is an extern?
Okay, what's an extern?
Well, other people.
Externals, outside
of their convent.
because this is from the Mother House, this is charity, so they're referring to people that are outside of their convent.
Right.
So they're manners with externs.
So how they deal with
So maybe we could put that in our, how we would deal with people outside of our family, I guess, or something.
Right.
Excuse me. Quote, strive to be religious, cordial, gracious, and joyous, and your manners with externs will be all that they should be. Cultivate consideration for the feelings of others, gentleness in movement, a spirit of helpfulness, and proper modulation of voice. By others, think particularly of pupils, patients, lay teachers, nurses, doctors, officials, agents, employees, and other persons whom you may meet in your line of duty, or those whom, as portress, you may admit to the house. End quote.
So basically, it's very, very important that you always be treating everybody with a joyous disposition and basically to be kind.
Cordial, gracious.
I know it seems funny that we have to say this because this should be kind of understood.
Just common knowledge.
It should be
Yeah.
common. I mean, I don't think it is.
No.
I don't think people wake up and go out of the house and go, I must treat everybody, with the kindness, no matter how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of mood I'm in. Like the nuns, the sisters, they have to go out there and they do.
Yeah, think about that for a minute. When have you ever seen a nun and she's been whatever, like her disposition not agreeable, and her go, I'm sorry, I'm just having a really bad day.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could you imagine?
I'm sorry I'm being disagreeable. I'm just very upset right now.
Yeah, something else unrelated.
They don't.
They don't.
No, they don't. That's how controlled they are. And
Yeah.
I mean, these are the issues that I have with the way we do things in our modern society, because I know it can be controlled because it once was.
Yes.
And we have religious sisters that control it all the time.
They're still doing that.
And they're still doing that. Like they don't, snap and bite people's heads off. And, so we know it is something that's controllable. And we've had, all these many years of people telling us it's not controllable.
Right. Right. Okay, quote, be ready to perform any service asked of you that is not in opposition to your obligations of obedience. End quote.
Right. So if somebody asks you to do something, be prepared to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And there's legit reasons. I mean, I think we've said this before. I feel like this is a repeating. Like that, so if sister, can you, I don't know what you would ask a sister to do. Sister, to be always prepared to do that. Mm-hmm. Unless there's something that directly stops you from being able to do that.
Right. Right.
Obedience, like you're superior. Well, I'm not allowed to go there.
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing, right? But other than that, if somebody says, sister, can you take the garbage out? Oh, yes, right away. They get up and they do that. So, just because they're religious and we're not, doesn't mean
we can't.
We shouldn't adopt these things, right?
Okay, quote, when you visit the office of a physician, dentist, oculist, etc., let your manner be quiet, calm, and religious. If obliged to speak, do so in low tones. Avoid all hilarity and do not enter into conversation with strangers unless there be a worthy reason for doing so. End quote. Uh-huh. Avoid all hilarity and do not enter into conversation with strangers unless,
Well, that falls under my big rule, spoke when spoken to.
Yeah.
Speak when spoken to, Speak when spoken to. If somebody wants to speak to you, you speak to them. And the other thing that's very interesting is they use the word religious. How did they put that there? They used it as a verb, religious.
Oh, be calm and religious.
Be calm and religious.
Let your manner be quiet, calm, and religious.
The one thing that I don't think people really understand is religious is actually a virtue.
Yeah.
Right? It's listed as the virtues, right? So to be religious is to be a virtue. Exactly how one be religious?
I was like, you're struggling with that.
I'm not entirely, I couldn't off the cuff of my head without giving it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Figure out how you would you would be religious, right? But it is a virtue, right? And it's a virtue that spreads graces. So, I mean, at the very least we could do is try to figure out how does one behave and be religious. So,
well, I mean, part of that would think part of that would be like, it does say to avoid all hilarity, right?
Yeah.
And do not enter into conversation with strangers unless there's a reason for doing so. So a sister is not going to come into a room and, all of a sudden, give into obnoxious laughter
or
and like
take center stage.
Or like,
Yeah.
like, obnoxious amusement and like,
and
they have to be calm, reserved, and
they have to have. I mean, all those things fall under the category of being dignified.
Dignified, yeah. Okay, quote, do not read any of the books, magazines, or papers on the table. Bring your own spiritual book with you, end quote. Oh, so this is like when you're visiting an office.
Yeah,
so
say you have to go to the doctors, and none has to go to the eye doctor.
See, again, this is their Handbook of Good Manners, and kind of almost like their rule book.
Yeah.
Like, so if a sister has to go to the doctor or the dentist, they don't want, the nun picking up good housekeeping.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be seen. I mean, I think it is like, that is like to avoid any cause of like,
well, they don't live
I
in
saw a nun reading the magazines of the world,
Or, the National Enquirer.
Yeah, like they don't.
Or the Star.
They don't partake in the world.
Right, and I mean the gossip sheets and that. Like, I mean, good housekeeping would be one thing. But, I mean,
but I see why they keep that. They're just rule across the board.
I know, but it doesn't really pertain to them that much.
What do you mean?
I mean, they live in communities, right?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's any need for them to read Good Housekeeping. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it.
I mean, not that they don't keep good houses. It's just
I don't think they need to.
Right. It doesn't pertain to their chosen lifestyle.
But you know what? Now that I think about it, this might be just like, I may be totally wrong about this. Mm-hmm. And correct me if you've seen any differently. But when I really reflect on it, I don't think I've ever seen, in all my years of being a Catholic, I don't think I've ever seen a nun reading a book where there's something on the cover.
Oh, really? What do you mean?
Think about it. All their books are just, like, I have a book over there. You can see it. It says St. Cecilia, okay?
Yeah.
And it's like just blue.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's because our nuns are always reading old things.
Right. That's my point. That's my point, though. I think they're just, I don't, like, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, we don't.
But when I think about it, all their spiritual reading books are like just old books with just colored covers, like just a blue cover or a black cover. No pictures on them, no nothing.
Right, right. Well, I don't know. We could ask Sister.
Well, I could ask her. I don't know if that's just something
that's
coincidental.
But I mean, the general thing with the religious are that they have to not be part of the world.
No, right? I know. I'm just thinking
of it. They're to be dead to the world. So what the heck is going on in the National Enquirer or Good Housekeeping will have nothing to do with them, and it will show, it will give the outside appearance that they're interested in worldly things.
I'm just thinking of from along the lines of like, when you're in the office and you're reading a book and it's got a big flashy cover on it.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, what you reading there? You know, like, hey, you know how people are like always looking at what you're reading?
Right. People are,
on the cover.
Always looking
They're always looking at, and that goes back to what we talked about in the last episode. Yeah. Don't read over somebody's shoulder.
And they are always looking
but
at
like, I'm just saying, like, if
I always look at people what people
if a nun was sitting there with a big flashy cover, I think it would be
tacky.
Tacky is maybe the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, just a little bit obnoxious.
And if you saw a nun sitting in the dentist office reading the National Enquirer, you'd be a little like,
magazine? Is that still a magazine?
Oh, I don't know.
Neither do
I don't read magazines.
No.
And you know what? And today, this might be irrelevant because it's been a long time since I've ever even seen a magazine in a waiting room.
Well, that's because
they don't even
has
have them anymore. That's what I'm saying. They don't have them anymore.
So I guess
I wonder what the rule would be about being on a phone in a waiting room.
Oh, I bet they would not be allowed to do that.
Yeah. I mean, but that could be a good lesson for us too. And actually, while back when I said, I was trying not to always be on my phone.
Yeah.
Especially around my kids. I made a point when I was going somewhere like my son's diabetes appointment to bring a book.
Right.
So I would specifically not be on my phone.
Yeah, I don't have a phone anymore. But when I did have a phone, right?
Yeah.
You try to, like, I don't know, go out in public and don't look like a mindless.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, when I did that, when I was like, okay, I brought the Story of the Soul. I'm like, I'm going to sit here and read. I'm not going to be on my phone. I did catch looks.
Yeah. Well, you're weird.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I did. I did catch people looking at me. I did catch people trying to see what the cover of my book was.
Yeah. Right, right.
I mean, could be, too, that the Story of the Soul, I have the edition that has the giant picture of St. Teresa on the front.
Yeah.
But
I like to have little projects that I would take places.
Yeah.
Little
but you're right, just so that you
crocheting or
don't look
sewing
like a
project.
mindless.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I read once, years ago, that a woman's life in particularly is a life of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
A mother's life is a life of waiting. She spends her life waiting, whether she's waiting 9 months for the baby, waiting in doctor's offices, waiting to pick kids up from school, or that she just spends her life waiting and
waiting for dinner to finish.
Waiting for dinner. And it's best if she got a hobby.
Yeah.
And something that she can take with her
while she's
to
doing all
fill
that
the
waiting.
time while she's waiting. I mean, I always, if I have to wait, I usually try to have a project, or if it's a convenient place, I say the rosary in my head or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, quote, when you are seated and a gentleman who is standing addresses you, it is not necessary to rise unless he be advanced in years, a clergyman or an official, end quote.
This is back to the...
We're still in the waiting room.
Right, this is back to propriety. Like when one rises, when one sits. So a nun rises to a gentleman of age.
Clergyman or an official.
Or an official, probably the doctor,
Yeah.
Or something like that, yeah.
Okay, quote, if when you are passing through the house you meet visitors with whom you are not acquainted, be gracious, helpful, and at your ease, avoiding at the same time all forwardness and lack of reserve, end quote.
Who are you? What are you doing here? Do I know you?
Yeah. Keep that reserve about yourself.
Just be reserved.
I mean, and that's good for us too. Like, think about that. If you're coming across somebody who you're not really acquainted with, you should be gracious, but you should not be so forward.
Yeah, and don't tell them your whole life story.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going into the subsection of acting as hostess. Okay, quote, be modest and unassuming. Greet everyone simply, graciously, and cordially, trying to take a real interest in every individual. Keep in mind our Lord's kindness to his guests at the Last Supper, end quote.
Right. So, I mean, being a good hostess.
I like to hear that they say, cordially, trying to take a real interest in every individual. So if you're a hostess and you're having people over to your house, and I'm saying this for myself, I need to remember myself too, make sure you take a real interest of every single person that comes into your home. I don't think as a hostess that you should pay more attention to one guest over the other.
No, just say, these are my people, so you people fend for yourself. I'm over here.
Yeah, Because, I think sometimes when you're hosting a party, obviously there are certain people in the room that you may want to devote your attention to more than others. I mean, but it's just to remember in good charity, to make sure that when you're inviting people into your home, all the people there feel welcome and feel...
And even if there's a person, I would go even so far, if there's a person that is kind of left out or doesn't know anybody, that's the person who should get the most amount of your time.
Yeah.
You know, so that they feel welcome.
They feel welcome. Like, I mean, that is literally your job as a hostess.
Right.
When you invite people into your home, to make them feel welcome.
Right. I mean, it is a job. Being a hostess is
It's
a
a job.
job. And it can be done poorly.
Yeah.
as well as, oh, she's such a gracious host.
And I mean, that's the thing too, I remember these things when I'm having people over to my house, that it's like, you have to remember that, and it seems so silly, but you're not really there for the good time.
No, you're not.
Because
not at
you're
all.
like, and I remember when we had Father and Aya over.
Yeah.
And I was so excited to see him, but it was at my house, so I had to make sure everybody, was comfortable and everybody had a drink and everybody's, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I'm hosting, so I'm not really able to like, don't get me wrong, we did get to sit down and talk, but you're the one that has to make sure, because it's your home.
Right.
You have to make sure everybody's comfortable. Everybody has a drink. Everybody has a spot.
No, it is work, and it is a duty.
It's a duty, yeah.
And it like I said, it can be done very, very poorly.
Yeah.
Or you can say, oh, she's a great hostess. I mean, one of the things that also is you have to be prepared for if things get damaged in your home.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, and you have to kind of, be prepared that, oh, they just broke that, and you have to go over there, and you have to go, oh, that's okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Like you do have to do that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, basically, because you have to take that as God's will too sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just God's will. Just God's will. You're trying to be a good hostess, and you're trying to, make sure everything's looked after, and sometimes things happen. Sometimes
things get broken. Sometimes things get ruined.
And sometimes things get broken. Sometimes they get ruined. Sometimes people drop tomato juice all over your white carpet. Or, whatever. In the old days, they'd burn holes in your couches.
Yeah, well,
at
least we don't have to worry about that anymore.
Don't have to worry about that anymore. But let me tell you, it was a thing.
Oh, boy. Okay, okay, quote. Do not give your time exclusively or too generously to your personal friends.
Right, we just said that.
Try to arrange that everyone in attendance receives proper attention. Be sure that all necessary introductions are made, end quote. That's a really good one, too, because I often forget that one a lot.
Yeah, don't leave people hanging.
Don't leave people, because, when you have a get-together or something and there's two people there that don't know each other, or that, a lot of times, okay, so say I'm having a guest over, and then I'll invite my sisters, and say this guest is a friend of mine, but haven't met my sisters yet.
Right.
And I always forget that. I always, well, not always, sometimes I've been getting better at remembering, because I noticed that something about myself, that I always forget to go, oh, this is my friend so-and-so, and this is my sister Heather. You haven't met her yet. Let me introduce you. But you got to remember that just because you know the person, don't assume. And I mean, it's what it is it's awkward for the person that doesn't know them.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's awkward for your guest,
No,
especially when it's a family thing.
I've been
Like with my sisters come in the room and we're just like, oh yeah, hey, come on in, and then you don't go, oh hello, Heather, meet my friend so and so, because if you don't make that proper introduction, it can get very awkward.
Right.
For that person.
And then the person sits there all the time and goes, who is this person?
Who is this person again?
Where did they come from?
Yeah.
Why
are they here?
Why are they here? And, and you just feel very awkward.
You do. Because I've
been there,
I've
too.
been in situations like that where you're just kind of standing there and
you're
someone's
like,
family member comes over and you're just kind of like...
And at what point does it get too weird to say, and who are you?
Yeah. Like, save that person from having to do that.
I mean, in the days of Pride and Prejudice, the rules of introduction were
very strict.
Very strict. And, protocol was absolutely had to be followed. I mean,
Absolutely.
and if you didn't follow the protocol, you ran the risk of creating scandal.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, quote, be sure that, quote, if refreshments are served, endeavor to see that everyone partakes, end quote. That's a really good one, too. Like, and I know we said, make sure everyone has a drink. But it's also, that's so much more than just make sure everyone has a drink. Like, don't make people ask for things.
Yeah.
When they come to your house.
Right.
Offer.
Offer, and offer
and
again.
if they don't want anything, they'll say no. But you just have to always offer.
I find a lot of times people say no because, they don't want to put you out, or they don't,
Yeah.
They don't want to be a burden or a bother. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going to tell you too. We're talking about being a good hostess. I don't know if it gets into this book, but there's also an etiquette to being a good guest.
Yes.
A good guest, like my
Yes.
mother said. My mother was not a coffee drinker, and she tells this story quite frequently, about how when she was first married, she went to somebody's house,
Yeah.
and the woman asked her if she'd like a cup of coffee, and my mother said, "Oh, okay," and she's not a coffee drinker, right?
Yeah.
And the woman said to her, "Oh, thank goodness." She said, "It's just so awkward if people don't take a drink." Because at least if you can go make a drink, you know, you can busy yourself. You just don't. You just don't stand there staring at each other trying to, you know, cut into some conversation. You know, where you have to try to think of what to say. It's like also being at a funeral too, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you go to a funeral, it's an awkward. A lot of times situations are awkward.
Right.
And you don't know what to say, and you can always turn and talk about the flowers.
Yeah.
I remember that because I was a florist, right? Like these little things that we do provide great comfort, but they also give you things to talk about.
Right.
You know, when you don't know what to say.
That's the one thing I've always in my life. I think I'm getting better at it. Mm-hmm. But for a long time there, I hated small talk.
Oh, I know.
I was so bad at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that weather we're having, eh?
Yeah, no, it's an art.
And then the conversation just end right there.
Yeah. Well, and if I remember back some relatives on my husband's side years ago.
Yeah.
They couldn't do any small talk.
Yeah.
And they came to our house, and it was almost painful. Mm-hmm. My husband and I were there, and it was like, you know, corn's high. Yep.
Yep.
You know, okay. How about those Blue Jays?
Yep.
Yep. Like you're trying to think of something
All
to
you're
get.
getting is yep.
Yeah, it was when they laughed. My husband and I were so relieved. Because it was like, was that painful for you? Because that was really painful for me. We're just sitting there staring at each other, and they couldn't take a conversation past 2 words.
All they were saying was yep.
Yeah, no, it was awful. It was really bad. And so, I mean, there is an art. These things, there's an art to all these things. Being a good guest, being a good hostess, taking a drink.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want one, like have a glass of water. Or, let the person get up and get you something.
Yeah.
Right? Let, it just makes for pleasantries, and nobody's awkward and everybody feels pleasant.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one is, quote, if possible, at the close of the function, bid everyone a personal goodbye, end quote. Like that is very true too. Don't let people just leave your house.
Yeah.
Make sure you personally, at your very best, try to say goodbye to everybody.
And that you were so happy they came.
Yeah. That goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Okay, now our next subsection here is about writing letters. Mm-hmm. Okay, so quote, an excellent little book entitled True Politeness by Abby Frances de Moore gives 6 brief rules to religious regarding the writing of letters. So, the rules are, write rarely, briefly, clearly, cordially, simply, correctly, end quote.
Yes.
So rarely, that's a good one. Don't bother people.
Well, okay.
Briefly.
Yeah. And when we can turn writing letters into the internet.
Yeah, let's just make sure we be very clear. Like, because we're not really writing letters.
Yes.
So let's churn this a little bit and put it into our own time.
We do send emails. We do write on Facebook.
Texts. Facebook messages.
Text. Yeah.
And you know what? I think that's a really, really good one. It is polite to not monopolize somebody's time.
Right.
To not, I'm going to go so far as to say harass them.
Yeah.
Like people, and I mean, I'm just saying it's just because the internet has made it very easy to ping, 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 ping,
Can
ping
I
people
give you?
all the time.
I'm gonna give you an example, okay?
Yeah.
So I always have kittens, and I'm always trying to sell kittens on Kijiji. So I put up, cute little fluffy ball of kitten,
Yeah.
message. You want one, right? So and then I get, is this kitten still for sale? And then it starts, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then it starts with the endless questions, like endless, and to me, I'm selling kittens very, very cheaply.
Yeah.
It should be obvious they haven't been to a vet.
Yeah.
Or the cat would be $300.
Yeah, I'm not selling you a $20 cat with $400 vet bill that I've paid.
Yeah, and then they go, can you take more pictures? And then they'll go on. People will legitimately do this
For days.
for a day. And then when we say, okay, when would you like to come pick up the cat?
Oh, actually, I can't take it.
Oh, they'll just stop.
Or they just disappear. They
just
ghost ya.
disappear. They
Yeah.
disappear. So, a lot of times it's people, I don't know, just looking at cat pictures. Like, I get this a lot.
Thinking they want a cat.
Thinking they want a cat, but they don't really want a cat.
Yeah.
And so then they just take up all this
Time.
All this time when they have no intention of actually
Getting
a cat.
Yeah.
That's just one small thing. Like, don't take, and you'll see it, especially in the ads when people are buying and selling. What's that? What do they say? Not legit. Serious inquiries
Is
only.
Yeah.
Because it is, do not take up
Take
somebody's
someone's time
time.
like that. And the thing is like, we're accountable for our time.
Yeah.
We're accountable
Yeah.
for every minute of our time we spend here. So think about that.
Yeah.
Don't bother people. Don't harass people, because you're accountable for your time. They're accountable for their time, and you're bothering them
Right.
over silliness, or even just I'm really not a fan of texting.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm not either.
I have to be honest, it drives me kooky.
I think.
It's so much time and effort and typing, and it's just, texting has allowed people to say things that they would never say
Right.
to your face.
Mm-hmm.
It also allows people to monopolize your time, texting back and forth over
It also takes you
nonsense.
It also takes you out of the moment.
It takes you out of the moment, whereas in the old days, you'd write someone a letter, they'd get the letter, they'd read it, and they'd have the opportunity to respond.
Yeah.
In one swoop, like in one thing.
Yeah.
Where, like,
And this would take.
because you would have to do postage.
This would take a week or two.
Yeah.
If you were on it,
Right.
like completely on it.
But with texting, it's like you can monopolize hours of people's time going back and forth and back and forth. And it's just, I think like as Catholics, and I know we say it all the time on this podcast, moderation, moderation, moderation. And texting always is so extreme to me.
Yeah, well, my personal opinion on it. I think it ruins marriages.
Yes.
I think people
I'm
talk.
right there with you. They talk too much.
They talk way too much to their spouse.
Yeah.
The husband should go to work, and then he should come home, and then he should have the chance to talk to his wife.
About
and
his
then
day.
they have lots to talk about. But
Yeah.
what do they have to talk about if they've been talking all day?
And texting all day.
And and if you're texting somebody who's at work, you're taking them away from their work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And vice versa. Like not just husbands and wives,
Well,
but everybody.
And not only that, then too, think about whatever kind of what's the word? Whatever kind of job or whatever your husband is in, or your wife, vice versa. If that's so be it. Think about that. You're texting them, and they're working.
Yeah.
And say this person has to deal with the public for their job,
Yeah.
and you're texting them.
And
You're putting them out, and you're putting out the person they're supposed to be dealing with.
right too.
You're taking time away from, like, say if they work in some kind of a customer service industry,
Yeah.
and you're texting them and they're on the clock.
Or or even you may be manipulating people's emotions too, because say you're at work and you're trying to deal with something. And you're getting texts about the fire that's going on at home. And I mean a pretend fire, not,
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, I'm working here. I'm not there. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like it's, and so now you're all agitated, and now it's reflecting in your work.
Okay. Well, I'll give you an example because this happened to me actually on Monday. I didn't tell you this. But
Oh, did you tell me? Oh, good.
so I do have this job where I work from home and I write DIY and home decor articles for an internet company. And I don't go into an office or anything, but I had to get a new computer from them because mine wasn't working. So I had to go into an office and meet with the HR manager and get this computer. Mm-hmm. So I take time out of my schedule to go drive into this office to meet with her.
Yeah.
And she's like, won't take long at all, be super quick. We're right in the middle of, she's showing me something and her phone goes off.
Uh-huh.
And goes off and she's like, oh, I got text, excuse me. So she's texting and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and she's texting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Really unprofessional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, like I'm waiting.
I thought we were in the meeting. The meeting was you and I.
Right. So anyway, so then she goes, sorry, excuse me, you're going to have to just give me a minute. I have to call my son. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's emergency. She doesn't even leave the table. And she calls her son. She goes, okay, what I need you to do is I need you to go outside, wrap up the hose. And she's going on about the garden hose. Okay, but make sure you wrap it up the right way it's supposed. And she's going on about this garden hose. It's not even important. But anyways, and I'm just thinking in my head, like I have things I have to get back to. I've left my kids.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very careful that this job, I do not work during the day.
Yeah.
I work in the evening after my kids are asleep. That's the reason why I took this job.
Right. Yeah.
Because my husband demands that I have a job. So I'm kind of,
Yeah.
I'd like to not, but whatever, it is what it is. And thankfully enough, God has blessed me with a job that I can do in the evening. But I'm just thinking in my head, like what would you have done before the age of the cell phone? You would have wrapped up the hose when you got home.
Right, yeah.
Like,
No,
is this
I know.
really an emergency? You need to wrap up a garden hose? And I don't know. I don't want to presume to know. I don't care.
No,
but it's just the point that your mother was in a meeting with somebody at her work. I'm talking about the HR lady.
Yes.
And you're bothering her over a garden hose.
But that she can be bothered.
But that
by
she
the-
can be bothered is the problem in the first place.
There's a problem in the first place, and that she doesn't say, "Listen,
I'm at work
you'll
right
have
now.
to wait till I'm not busy,
Or I'm not in this meeting.
or I'm not in this meeting." Right? And this
Well,
happens.
and the thing that what upset me too is that, like, where are our priorities?
Yeah.
Like, I get our children are our priorities. I'm not denying that.
Yeah, then
But
you-
you've taken a job
Yeah.
and you're on the clock and a company is paying you to be a human resources manager and deal with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's taking you out of the home.
Yes.
Like, that's where you need to relay to your children, I'm at work right now.
Yeah.
I will deal with this when I get home.
Yeah.
Unless this is an emergency, go back to whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, the cell phone has the ability to pull us away from the present and make us believe that whatever is going on inside of that little black box
Is more
important than the person sitting beside us.
Yes.
That's my whole point.
No, I know.
So we have to be very cautious that we're not doing that. And I'm telling myself here, we have to be very cautious that we're not doing that to other people too.
Okay, and so what does it say there? What was the list besides rarely? And now we're glued to a
black
message
box.
system. Yeah.
Briefly.
Briefly.
So be brief. Don't go on and
Yeah.
on and on about why the sky is blue before you message somebody. Clearly.
Yeah.
That's good too. Clearly. Make sure people know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Be clear and precise.
Yeah.
And I would say get to the point too.
Right.
Cordially. So pleasant.
Yeah, don't be rude.
Don't be rude. Simply.
Yeah. You don't get extra points for bigger words.
Correctly.
Yeah.
And be correct.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all like they were talking about writing letters, but we can put it in the form of email or whatever.
I'm going to tell you, it's going to, because I just read this briefly, but it's going to go on to why it needs to be that
this way. Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's go on here. Quote, use community stationery or plain white letter paper. Fancy styles, pad paper, or loose leaf sheets should be avoided. Enclose every note in an envelope. See that every letter or note you write is the embodiment of good taste, good form, neatness, and careful penmanship. Avoid blots and erasures. Try to foresee what you would wish to write so that you will not need to insert words marked with a caret, end quote.
A carrot.
Carat. What is that word? I have to look it up. Carat?
Well, anyway, you look that up. But
It's probably some form of eraser or something. And
yeah. But like they don't want everything to be, again, we're talking about nuns here. So not this, exaggerated.
It's where you put a little wedge-shaped mark and you have to put it up in between the words because you forgot a word.
Oh.
And then it'll be below a line.
Yeah. All right. I meant to put this sentence in, and you're writing up the side.
So your letter is really hard to read.
So everything should be kind of clean and crisp, but not overly fancy. I mean, they are nuns.
Yeah.
But also too, like if you think about, the craziness that has gone on, like the lack of regard for this kind of thing. I need to write a letter for the teacher. All I can find is this crayon, and let me rip off the back of this envelope. Here, will not be here today, and whatever, that's what we do now. I've seen it.
Remember, what's funny enough, was it the week before we read about do not pass something to somebody unless it's in an envelope?
Yeah.
I learned from that podcast.
I did. I have to give Sister something. I put it in an
Me
envelope.
too! That was when I had to give Sister something.
Yeah.
And the old me, honestly, I would have just and it was money too. It was Ava's money and permission slip for camp. Honestly, I'm not lying.
Yeah, no, I'm not
Before
either.
reading that, I would have just walked into church and I would have been like, here, Sister, here's Ava's money for camp.
Yeah, no.
But I was like, no, I was like, no, you just read this 2 weeks ago. So I took the time, I went downstairs, I got an envelope, I put her name on it, I put the form in, and I put the money in, and I sealed it up, and I gave it to Sister.
I had receipts for the food for girls' camp. So I get an envelope.
Yeah, no,
I got an envelope there,
what?
and I put it in, and then I labeled it, and I put exactly what was in there, so she doesn't even have to go through all those receipts.
And not only that, so I was like, yeah, this is why this is so important, because it was good for her.
Yeah.
I could just give her the envelope. She could tuck it in her bag.
Yeah.
Not have to worry about the money and whatever.
No.
But also, I'm going to tell you, it made the exchange easy.
Yeah.
And so cordial. And just here's Ava's pleasant.
Yeah.
Just pass her an envelope.
It's like you're making life
easier for someone else.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
You know? So
I thought about that. I meant to say that when
I did too. Well, I mean, I don't know that I would have gotten an envelope before.
No, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have. I know me. I know myself, and I wouldn't have
I
read that.
I would have folded them up and said, "Here, Sister, here's the receipt."
Yeah, I would have folded the money inside the permission slip, like the form. I would just wrapped it around it 3 times, and then I would have been like, "Here you go, Sister."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, why am I missing these good manners?"
Yeah.
But now we know.
Right.
So my mom and I, we're learning too.
We're learning too.
Just
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, I do think we're all very careless.
No, I know.
Because all this protocol has just gone out the window, and we're just like we just like, oh, here's your $23.50, and you're just like,
don't let the dimes hit the floor as I pass it to you.
Yeah.
Catch those.
like people at the Tim Hortons drive-thru.
I'm just being silly, but I'm being serious, but silly at the same time. Okay, cool. Be most reserved in your letters, even more so than in conversation. Spoken words may be forgotten. Written words stand as a record for or against you. End quote. Maybe we should end it there, because that's very important.
That's big, right? Especially in our day and age of flipping people off on Facebook. Right? Those words stand forever. And I've said that. And you know me, I used to be a keyboard warrior. Occasionally that comes out every once in a while. But I always did think to people, and I've been on Facebook for quite a long time. I can't remember. When did it come out?
Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, back in 2007, I think.
Really? Well, anyway, so a long, long time, and a long, long time of, and I used to say to people, like, you can't, I remember getting in fights or debates
Oh no, 2004. Sorry.
with people. I'd say you can't say that. You've written it down. It's there forever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you say words, they kind of float away and people don't exactly remember them maybe, or they don't remember them the way you said them or whatever, right? But once you've typed something and once you've put it in writing,
Once it's in print, it's there.
forever. Like, I mean, who the heck wants to die and go up to, you know, heaven like, and here's everything you wrote on Facebook. You know?
I know.
And like, to me, it was a very scary notion. Like, remember that? And I mean, and trust me, I probably have a lot that I'm going to be looking at, you know, but it was always in my head to think like, yeah, no, don't write it down. Like, I mean, once said, it can be forgotten, but it's never forgotten if it's written.
No.
Never.
No. Okay, quote, avoid writing letters of a frivolous, worldly nature or such as express discontent, criticism, or disloyalty, end quote.
Right. Like, don't
Frivolous
complain.
Yeah.
Don't complain. Don't criticize. Be very, very careful about what you say and what you call things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, nuns per se represent God in a very, very special way, right? Like, they're very, 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 very clearly representatives of God.
Well,
So
they've
if
chosen him as a spouse.
So if they look bad, it's really bad, right? But we too are supposed to be representatives.
Right. Yeah. Just because we're not nuns.
Just because we're not nuns, just because we're not wearing a habit. Like, if people know you're Catholic and that's the way you behave,
Yeah.
you know, I think it was a Bible quote, I'm not entirely sure. Jesus says, you're the one that calls yourself a child of God.
Yeah.
You know, the pagans don't call themselves childs of gods, or the infidels, or, you know, the heathens, whatever. They don't claim to be children of God. We do. We claim to, you know, be that. So we have to act accordingly.
Okay, quote, in letters addressed to your superior, let all that you write show respect for her office. Take the trouble to find out the Christian name of any extern to whom you may have occasion to write, the correct spelling of all proper names, and the appropriate title required for the ecclesiastics of rank. End quote. You know what? That is true about the finding out somebody's name. Okay, so many times when I'm writing an email, I just quickly say hello.
Yeah.
Hi, hey, you know, whatever. Like, I'm just saying,
Or hey.
Or hey, you know, like, especially in an email.
Right.
I don't write too many letters, so I'm taking this to the.
No, I don't know when
email.
the last time I was doing some correspondence, and with a certain fellow, and I was like, wouldn't it be better if we sent it snail mail?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot to read. But
but I'm just saying, like, once you start a thread, I don't think you have to say, hello, Ashley, like, every time. I'm just using that as a name. It's the first one that popped in my head. I don't even know an Ashley. But anyways, but what I'm saying is like, if you're going to take the time to write somebody, at least take the effort to address them by name.
Right.
Like, I think an email means so much more when you actually call out somebody by name.
Like you care.
You know, like
you care to
enough
know their name.
To know their name and get the spelling right. And, you know, like, actually make sure that you've, you know.
Yeah, I forget names all the time, and I'm really self-conscious of that.
Yeah.
You know, like, if I forget, you know, especially if I can't remember their name. I can't remember their name. That means I don't care. You know, and then I'm like, I didn't care enough to remember their name, you know, and I'm really bad at it. But I do, if it's any consolation and I've forgotten your name, it really does bother me when I can't remember a name.
Remember your name. Okay, quote, when placing your letter in the envelope, fold the paper so that the opening is at the top. Be courteous enough to send a note of appreciation to one from whom you have received hospitality or any other mark of kindness. Answer letters promptly and courteously.
Right. So even how you put your paper in the envelope matters. You want to make it as easy as...
You want them to open it up and all the stuff
Yeah.
is right at the top. Like they're opening it the right way. They're going to be.
They don't even have to turn it around because it's upside down. You have
Yeah.
it all there. I mean, like, just think if people paid attention to such minor things.
Yeah.
How, it's like that saying, in the old days, they say, what was it? Save penny. If you save the nickels, no, save the pennies, the nickels look after themselves. That's very old. I mean,
Oh, yeah. I never
we don't even
heard
have
that
pennies in Canada. But what it means, if you look after the little things,
Yeah.
the big things,
Yeah.
like if you're saving pennies, next thing you know, you'll have lots of nickels, right? And it's the same thing. If you're looking after the little things, if you're paying attention to how you're folding a paper into an envelope to make somebody's life easier when they pull out. I mean, it sounds silly, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if you think about it, like, I don't receive a piece of mail.
Uh-huh.
When I think about it, I don't receive a piece of mail from the government, a business, anything, and you pull out that letter and it's not the right way.
Yeah.
They're always the right way.
Right.
Think about it.
No, yeah, you're right.
Like, could you imagine if a business wanted your business and they sent you this haphazard letter and you pull it out and it's upside down and you got to twirl it around and you got,
Yeah.
Think about how much, I mean, that might change.
Right.
But up until now, every time I get a letter from the government, you open that and it's the exact right way. You open any kind of bill, it's the exact right way.
Right.
You open anything,
They're the only people that send letters.
And most bills you don't even get anymore.
No, if you don't get those either, it's all email.
It's all email, but
anyway, I mean, it just goes to show the little things do matter.
They do matter, because you think about it. You think about it, if you got anything in the mail from a business, you'd be like, oh, what, you can't even stuff an envelope right? But, and this is a good one, too, about being courteous, about sending a note of appreciation to one whom you receive hospitality, any other mark of kindness, especially, if somebody invites you over to their home. Or, you don't have to send them a letter, but you can send off a quick message or
an
something,
email
or something.
But I always get a letter. Well, I don't always. We haven't had sisters that long, but since we've had them, I always get letters of thanks from them.
Oh yeah, they still, and in the mail.
In the mail.
Yeah.
I mean, and it does, if you think about it, like that is, I mean, for you to go to all that effort, not just saddle up to, I mean, sister has email. She could saddle up to her computer and rip me off an email. She knows my email address.
But she doesn't.
She doesn't. No, she takes, and they take the effort too. If they put like a little baby Jesus on the card, like the cards aren't.
Yeah.
It's usually a lot of recycled paper.
No, I know, but
but they take the time to put. I actually have a letter from Sister Jacinta. It's probably 15 years old. Well, you have some.
I have all Sister Jacinta's letters.
From when you were a girl?
From when I was a girl, and she went to the convent, and she wrote me.
And I have one that she wrote to Grandpa.
Yeah.
And we were talking about making these glue books.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Sister wrote this letter to Grandpa to wish him well,
I'll put it in my glue book.
We're gonna make some glue books and.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. And the last one was answer letters promptly and courteously. Yeah. Don't, if somebody writes you a letter, don't write them back 3 years later or something.
Yeah.
They might not care anymore by then. Yeah. No, I'm just teasing. But I think we will leave it there because we're 10 minutes over our hour here. And then next week, we'll be going into making introductions.
Yes.
Manners in chapel. Yeah, so we're getting into some good lists of what to do, what not to do, how to do it, and stuff like that. So yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope. We're just did we talk about these glue books earlier, or was that
you just brought it up, kind of like.
Yeah, I just watched I was watching
another YouTube video.
Well, the vintage one kind of moved into these glue books, which is basically a scrapbook, but they're very creative scrapbooks. They're more about the artistic thing, and so I bought a couple books and.
Why, you buy a special book for this?
Well, I did.
You did?
A scrapbook, but I bought mine. It was Amazon. It was a leather bound with old type pages.
Okay.
I'm going to take all these letters and holy cards, and I got boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make little collages and
Yeah.
stuff in little books to look at. So
Good stuff.
another hobby, because I don't have enough.
You don't have enough. Add one more to the list. Well, anyways, we'll leave it there, and we hope that you all have a very blessed week. May our Lord bless you and Our Lady guide you always.
And Saint Teresa, pray for us.